And welcome back into Cullman Today. I'm Debbie Wood along with Colonel Cullman. He is here this morning. This is the 33rd anniversary of Cullman Oktoberfest 2014. Hard to believe.
It is. 33 years.
33 years.
And I've been here almost half of it.
I was going to say, and you've been part of this for 15 years.
Yes. They started in 2000. You know, that's a funny story. They had looked for a colonel for a year or two, Elaine Fuller, down at the museum. And I had just started going to St. John's Church. Pastor Bob was on the Oktoberfest committee.
Right.
He told Elaine, he says, I've got the perfect colonel. She said, I don't know about that. And he told her, he says, come out to the Abbey, or St. Bernard. We're doing a show out there for 4th of July that year. Just come and watch him. Of course, I had my big beard, and I did
a little longer than this.
A lot longer than this, and did a speech from James Madison that he had done. And at the end of that, you know, I didn't know Elaine.
Right.
She just come right up to me and told me, I want you to be our colonel. Now, Pastor Bob had given me a heads up.
Right.
I had time to think about it a little bit, knew what was going on. Elaine wasn't aware that I knew. I took a couple of steps away from her, looked over my shoulder and said, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
And I've been doing it ever since.
And you know, you are perfect for it. I mean, the suit, of course, you had the suit made. The
suits made. Got 7 suits.
7?
Yes.
The same color?
All of them are brown. The colonel always wore brown.
That's what I wanted to ask. The colonel wore brown. And this, and folks, this is not a dark brown. This is sort of like a light milk chocolate brown.
I like that, chocolate brown.
Yeah. So is this just something that, I guess, coming from Germany, this is just part of their
No, not really.
The
suit itself is styled after the late 1800s style.
Right.
I think he wore brown just because I think that associated to him. It was an association of maybe of dirt. You know, he was a farmer.
Right.
You know, everything that he knew was brown. It was a neutral color. He didn't really want to stand out. You know, he just wanted to be a part of everybody's lives and help them come to this country. Right. You know, I don't think he would have ever worn this vest. It's too bright.
Too bright for him.
Too bright for him. Of course, Colonel now, I liked a little bright.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was just, everything that he wore was brown, and I think it was just, to him, I think it was just, okay, I'm just like everybody else. Don't pay a lot of attention to me.
And let's talk about him just a little bit. I know in order to portray the colonel like you have and have done so well, you had to read a lot about him.
I still do.
I was going to say, I've read several really, really good stories about him over the years, over the last 4 or 5 years. And I don't think a lot of people understand what he went through to get here and the sacrifices. He left his family in Germany, other than one son that later came. Is that correct, or two?
Both sons actually came to this country.
But they both died early.
They both died. You're right. He really, what he wanted a democratic form of government in Germany. And that's what he tried to set up. He actually was very much a part of 2 revolutions there.
Wow. And
during that second revolution, he tried to assassinate Bismarck. And when Bismarck found out who was responsible, well, they put a price on him. He had sent,
so that's why he ended up in America.
Left in the middle of the night. You know, he fled Germany.
How did he get his money in order to? That couldn't be easy back in those days.
It was. He was smart.
See, to get here.
Well, you got to remember, he went to college when he was 13 years old. Wow. The colonel was a very brilliant man. Knew exactly what he wanted and how to go about it. Knew how to make money. He was very charismatic. Wow. He was good at what he did, and that was, you know, convincing people to do stuff, to realize their own dream, to be a part of that. He was good at that.
So once he fled his country, his native land, and came to America, and he started out in the north.
He did.
And migrated down this way. Did they still try to pursue him over here?
No, they did not.
They just let go.
As a matter of fact, he traveled around Europe for a couple of years after he left Germany.
Okay.
And you know, his intention was to go back to Germany one day.
Okay.
And, you know, I guess pick up where he left off.
Wow.
But the regime there just never did change.
Not for years, did they?
And they kept, you know, his friends, he stayed in Switzerland, was in the UK for a while, France.
So he had great contacts.
He had a lot of contacts, and everybody told him, if you want a democratic government and you want to own land and do what you want to do,
Right.
you need to go to America. So he finally gave in and realized, you know, I'm not going to accomplish
Exactly.
what I want in Bavaria at the time.
Right.
And he left. He came to America. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And of course, folks, if you haven't read that story, we have lots of books that you know that you can buy at the library and go in and read. Yeah, whatever.
Library, you know.
Just
The funny thing though is, you know, the colonel, as smart as he was, didn't keep a lot of notes. So there's a lot of contradiction. You know, there's a lot of speculation about what he did, where he went,
Right.
who he contacted, what was going on. So you read two books, you might get two different stories.
Two different stories. Wow, that's interesting. Now his wife and a daughter, is that correct?
Well, he
Stayed
had
in
two
Germany?
daughters.
Two
a lot of
daughters.
people
Okay.
don't know that. He had 2 sons and 2 daughters.
Okay.
Alice, his youngest daughter, she died as an infant.
Okay.
His eldest daughter, Maria, she never came to this country. His wife, Josephine,
She
never
never
came to this
here.
country. Now, he
Wow.
had 2 sons, Theodore and Otto. Now, he was in Cincinnati for a long time. Theodore met him in Cincinnati, surprised him. Colonel didn't know he was coming.
Wow.
And the colonel told Theodore about his plan to come to North Alabama. Theodore got typhoid fever and died before he ever made
We
the trip.
got to see him,
Yep.
and that's so sad. And the fact that he was a colonel, does that mean that he was part of the Army?
He was
when he
not.
He was not. How did that come about?
Well, it's kind of an honorary title. You know, when he went to work for the railroad, he was still a foreigner. Okay, and you have to have a title. You know, coming to the South, everybody was a colonel.
Right.
He was a colonel now.
Wow.
Colonel Cullman.
Wow.
So it was an honorary title.
You know, and Larry, you enjoy this, I know, so much. And 15 years he has been
Yeah.
Colonel Cullman for our community and does a wonderful job. And we got to say, if you have never seen a picture of the real Colonel Cullman, you really favor him a lot.
I do.
Was he about your
About my height,
height
about
and
my
everything?
build. You know,
wow, the balding
evidently,
head?
yeah. Well, and his hair was longer.
Was it?
But he combed it back. But he, you know,
But
it
you couldn't
looked
tell.
similar.
Yeah, I was going
You
to
know,
say, didn't it?
if I was to let my hair grow out, and well, matter of fact, there's at the museum in his bedroom, there is a picture over a fireplace, and there's lots of photographs made of me in front of that picture with the same profile.
Wow.
And you look at the two, and you say, "Wow."
Yeah.
It's
See?
cool looking.
It is, isn't it? I
cool
mean, it's
looking.
really neat to think.
Especially when my beard's long.
When it's a little bit
Well,
longer.
this is going to be
Because
this is a short beard
This is a short
colonel
beard
year.
Because typically you're about 3 inches longer, aren't you?
About 6 inches
Is
longer.
it that much
Oh
longer?
yes, it's generally down here.
Wow. Okay. Well, it won't be out there in time for Oktoberfest, but
No.
just know that
It's a short beard year.
short beard
Yeah,
year.
I like
okay.
that.
I like that too. Colonel Cullman is buried in our Cullman City Cemetery.
Yes.
If you've never been, you really need to go to. What history? It's got a great antique fence around
it
it, is
does.
what I call it.
And buried with his second son, Otto.
Right.
Otto came here, died of typhoid fever too.
Yeah.
And neither son married.
Isn't that something?
So he really doesn't have direct descendants here. His niece came,
Right.
you know, married the Hartung. But that's all.
But that's it.
You know, he was here by himself.
Unbelievable, and the history in our community, and
It is.
you've got to be able to come out maybe and participate in some of this, and go over by the Cullman City Cemetery. I think there'll be a cemetery tour this year.
There will be a cemetery
and,
tour.
You've got to do that. If you've never done that, it's a great thing.
And we switch back and forth between the city cemetery
And the Catholic.
cemetery.
Exactly. See, I love that too.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short little break, and when we come back, we're going to find out how the Burgermeister is chosen, and also how our Fair Queen, how our
Miss Oktoberfest.
Miss Oktoberfest is
Oh, that would be a
actually
good one.
chosen. Yeah, we want to know about that too. So we'll be back with more right after this.